show last evening, and I think he is reading some interesting tea leaves as the Biden empire strikes back. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Randy. There is Stephanie.
Good morning.
And they are striking back.
There's a big meeting today in Congress. Democrats are meeting at their normal luncheon, but I think Joe wants to hang on pretty bad.
And Jill is pushing him all the way against those headwinds. Hannah's over there. We have a lot to talk about locally, sadly, don't we, Hannah, with the passing of the drowning of a assistant fire chief here. Just so sad.
It is.
And John Marsh as well is covering things. John, the weather report briefly from your area overnight. What is in store today? Any water rescues down there? I mean, in Jeff City?
Boy, yeah, we didn't hear about anything down here, but boy, we had 2 deaths in a week in Columbia with that lady who died last week, and now the assistant chief. We're looking at more rain today, but cooler, so we'll see what transpires and how much we get today.
Yeah, I saw ABC 17 was saying there was a storm up around Hallsville that was just stagnant, that was just hanging on this morning in northern Boone, and I thought we were clear last night. I left Harrisonville, is that right? Harrisonville, North Boone County, I think, at around 10 o'clock, and more rain yesterday.
And you sent the group a text of a Facebook post or a picture that looked like a funnel cloud up Hallsville way, but I haven't heard any reporting on that.
Let me tell you, it looked exactly...
It looks like a twister.
Oh, we were headed that way at about 6 p.m. It was right over Hallsville, and it was the talk, and I was like, have we confirmed that those sirens are working? Did that test go okay last week? Because that sure looks like a funnel cloud.
Look to me, I don't know. So there's, I guess Hurricane Beryl is still making its presence known for sure. Assistant Chief Gale Blomenkamp will be in a little bit later this morning to talk about what happened yesterday and pay tribute to Matt Tobin as well.
And I think I might have said Harrisonville. I was in Harrisburg,
which
is the right.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was my first trip to Harrisburg. It was quite lovely, actually.
Yeah. So, it's just really sadness and a very solemn time, I think, throughout the area when that news broke yesterday. I know on the 93.9, the Eagle, the KWS, the websites, the Facebook page were just inundated with condolences and just lots of grief. And
tributes, I think, from his coworkers, from people who knew him. I think he was involved in some of those other recent water rescues, and just said he was always there to lend a hand, always one of the first to be there. And yesterday was tough. And I think you think about the days that you're really excited to come in to talk about something. And
Shopify helps you.
And I knew today was one of those mornings where I was like, I know we have to talk about it, but I know Hannah has a lot of friends in the first responder community. Yeah. I know when I drove by the Southern Boone Fire Protection District, there are a lot of folks there last night, and they had the boat out. And I worry about all my first responder friends, because I know it's tough for the entire community, and he'll be missed.
Well, and
I've got a lot of his coworkers who are deployed with Task Force 1 to Texas as we speak.
Yeah, and it's especially tragic. I was reading one of the articles from ABC 17 yesterday, and they mentioned this is Boone County Fire Protection District's second line of duty death, and the first, of course, being Assistant Chief Bryant Gladney, who passed away. This winter will be 3 years since he passed away. And so it's hard to lose a first responder, your coworker, your brother, in that essence anyways. But I think losing these guys who are in leadership positions, I think I hate to say even worse, but it's a big impact on all of the guys on the department, of course.
It's also inspirational, I think, for everyone to look at a situation like this and think about leaders leading from in front, not from behind. We heard so much of that during the Obama years. We're going to lead from behind. Leaders that put themselves in harm's way. I know everyone does in the rank and file, and the front line. I get that. But I think that's just the nature of first responders. They're the first ones to take the charge up the hill. You see that in the military. You see with platoon leaders and so forth. John, you've been involved in that. You know what I'm talking about. And there's some special essence of leadership when it reaches to that level where involvement comes with, hey, I'm sending me first, you're coming with me. That's a special kind of leadership.
My husband and I have had this argument many a time. Of course, he's a volunteer firefighter for the big city of California. And I've kind of told him, like, I don't understand why when something goes wrong, your first instinct is to go towards the danger.
Yeah.
And, it's just one of those mindset things that not everyone has. And I'm grateful for those that think like that. But when it's my husband, I'm like, come on, can't you just just this one time run the other direction? But
well, and it's a good reminder for those of us who are frustrated at work, right? Who show up and are like, you know what, I don't really, I'm having a tough day or whatever. And to know, I believe he left behind a wife and 2 kids, to know that they woke up yesterday and he went out on the job, and we don't all have that same risk at our job. So I'm thankful for those people who put themselves out there.
yeah, when we have a bad day, nobody dies.
Right.
Yeah, and you talk about running towards the fire. I think about my son-in-law. Remember the shooting downtown? It was 3-4 years ago, with it was on homecoming eve. Remember on that homecoming weekend?
Yeah.
And there was a shooting, and the picture that ultimately made it into one of the newspapers was my son-in-law, who now we find, a couple years later, 3 or 4 years later, now he's a special forces guy. I guess you could have predicted it. He wasn't going for it then. But they were all downtown. He and his wife and my other daughter and her husband were downtown hanging out, and they were walking back to the car, and they heard shots ring. Everyone else is skedaddling, and he runs towards it, and it was he took off his shirt, and it was he put a little tourniquet on until police officers and others could get there. It's just something in that mindset that I think a lot of us just really admire and we're inspired by. So we'll talk with Gale Blomenkamp at 7:35 more about that story, about just the whole issue of water and flooding and things that you just maybe don't process that are dangerous that are. I want to get to that as well, so that we can reduce the risk of harm to listeners and people that are in the community, as well as to those who then put themselves in danger to try to help them.
I know Gale will bring up the fact that first responders know about flooding is the people who usually, vast majority of them who get into trouble, have driven through that road with little water over it literally 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. It's not folks coming in from outside the area. It's somebody going, I made it through here before, and it only takes one time.
Well,
been there, done that.
It never looks.
Me too.
It never looks deep.
Yep.
Right? Until you're in the middle of it, and it's too late to do anything about it.
We have exactly that kind of a situation up near the farm, off of Highway DD. They're a little north of Macon, and there's a low water area. There's a creek nearby, and then you go down through a low area that's like in a little valley before you head up on the hill and the road. And I can't tell you how many times that thing's flooded, and I am so tempted to drive over it because I've got a big truck and I can put it in 4-wheel drive.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, I have to pinch myself and grab myself and take myself the steering wheel. No, Randy, you're turning around. You're going the long route. It's just so important to remember that.
Yeah, I mean, with all the water rescues over the weekend, yesterday I kind of felt like we were talking about it a lot. Don't cross, don't cross. And I'm sure there were people out there who are like, we know, kind of rolling their eyes like, okay, we get it. But I mean, we saw, more rescues again yesterday. And even, and so I know I've seen, our news partners, KMIZ, are like, yeah, we mean it. And the water's still coming down. It's not getting any better, and it can come up so quickly. And so I urge everyone to just take precautions, because you're not only putting yourself at risk, but you're potentially putting other people at risk as well.
There's no doubt about it, and I think you hit it on the head. And again, we're going to continue to use that message. And if people roll their eyes, so be it. I mean, they may have to roll their eyes 100 times. That's just too bad, I guess. This is horrible. What happened to this assistant chief? This is He taught. He was the expert in water rescues. And I was out at the press conference yesterday. It was very emotional. I'm glad Mr. Blomenkamp's going to come in. So I was at the fire district, but I did not go to the scene. But Morgan Burrish was there at KMIZ, and she showed it. And Stephanie, what you said, and Randy is absolutely right. That water was it looked like a rapid somewhere, maybe on Colorado. That's how intense that was. And it's just We've never. I can tell you, I have never seen a July with this much rain, heavy rain. We got more on the way. We've got areas 10 to 12 inches of rain. Here we are on July the 9th. That's unheard of.
I remember July back in the early 90s, Brian, when we had much the same thing, and the Missouri River went out of its banks.
Yeah, 1993.
For weeks.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't remember. Yeah, you're right, and no doubt about it. And that was more of a statewide issue in 1993 as opposed to more locally here. I do, real quick, I do encourage people, KWS.com, 939theeagle.com. I've got an updated story from the press conference, and I also have a photo, courtesy of the Boone County Fire District. I wanted to wait to get the photo from them of Mr. Tobin and his wife. And Stephanie, he leaves behind, he and his wife, a 13-year-old boy and a 9-year-old boy. Chief Olson got choked up, so did Gale Blomenkamp. Chief Olson, that's the biggest thing he said yesterday. Please keep them in your mind. He said they're going to have a tough time. He said that.
Now, in other local news, yesterday we talked about this parole hearing.
Yeah.
Did that occur? What happened? Where are we with that?
Well,
just a little briefly. We can cover it in depth later, but what's up?
Well, I've been swamped with literally flooding, so I didn't have as much time to work on it, but I did put a call and actually talk to Karen Posman on the phone yesterday, the spokesman at the Department of Corrections. She did not know at the time I talked to her, and this was late afternoon, if it had taken place or not. She was going to get back to me. I have not heard from Karen. I'm comfortable saying it happened. In terms of very important, Randy, I can't emphasize this enough. As far as what happened in there, that is private unless the family wants to come out.
So that doesn't get reported.
I didn't realize
that.
Those are closed. The media can't go. It's really the victim's family, the defendant, the prosecutor, and very rarely does anybody come out and say anything anyway. So it would have happened, no decision. The fact is that they moved the victim's family to Jeff City and the defendant stayed in Chillicothe. But as far as any decision, we're looking anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks.
Well, there was a gentleman on the 93.9 Eagle Facebook feed, I believe it was, that I saw, and turned out I think it was called the little girl that was murdered, his bonus daughter, and who was commenting on that. You saw that back and forth.
I did.
It was very poignant.
He's from Centertown, I believe.
And he said, very long day for us last evening at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I did see that it's on 93.9 The Eagle Facebook, and he basically, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, his message was, we don't want her parole.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
We don't want
her. But he said, he echoed what you said yesterday, how emotional it is for those families when they need to relive that, going through it. Yeah.
Exactly. And you ask very good questions. It's just... I've seen a lot of news reports, and the way it's been reported by other outlets kind of implies that the public can just sit in on. It's not like a court proceeding. These are closed. You can't get these.
Well, a lot of us think that it's like a courtroom and you're going to get a verdict, and now there's now more deliberation that goes on.
Well, it's the parole board. They have to meet with their analysts, and you know darn well that they're probably also talking about the fact that today the governor is going to sign the bill, essentially dealing with Alyssa Bustamante. That's who it was essentially doing.
I read somewhere that someone, I don't know where I read it, maybe it was by this gentleman, said that it was reported somewhere that there was no remorse, that the defendant didn't have remorse.
I did not report that. Well, I will tell you that she openly, in I think the Journal, and it came out that she openly said that she killed because she wanted to know what it felt like. Now, she did in court
Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. Watch.
Well, that's Joe Biden on Scarborough yesterday, and it's time for the Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie.
Well, it's not been good. And he's getting angrier, which folks have pointed out is a sign of dementia, unfortunately. But lately, we were wondering the night of the debate whether we would get Angry Joe or Sleepy Joe. We definitely got Sleepy Mouth Agape Joe. But we're back to Angry Joe right now. So they changed the cocktail. And we're wondering, I think in all seriousness, it is the 75th anniversary of NATO. And Biden, we've heard from his own folks that they like to schedule things before 4 p.m. To make sure that he is on it. And he is supposed to be addressing NATO tonight at 5 p.m. That's outside the window.
Ouch.
And I think for most people, even moderates, even people who don't love Trump, I think one of their main concerns is how do we survive the next 6 months, even if we elect someone new or even if they take him out or replace him as a nominee. It's dangerous in the eyes of other countries. And here we have Biden on the international stage at 5 p.m. tonight. I'm not feeling great about it.
Tyrants like Putin and Kim Jong-il and, Xi, they prey on weakness.
They really do. We are also getting more information on the Veep stakes. We think there will be a pick by Monday, so we are in less than a week. Of course, Trump loves the unexpected, so it could come earlier is what we're hearing. I thought it was an interesting opinion piece out of the Wall Street Journal yesterday saying Trump needs to pick someone who is like a steady force, who will show kind of that calmness and maturity. They didn't actually say he needs somebody old. I think there's a risk if he picks somebody old, but they basically ruled out J.D. Vance. They said it shouldn't be Rubio because of the things he's said in the past. They seem to kind of like Burgum.
Burgum, yeah. But I saw Burgum of politics, state, national, international. Chris, how you doing? Tons of things to talk about, brother.
I am. I'm doing fantastic. And sometime during this conversation, I've got a question for you and Stephanie.
Okay. Well, we'll see. It'll be. Well, why don't you do the interview today? That'll be good. Give us a little time off. Yeah, I know sometimes when I'm on with you and Tim, sometimes I forget I'm the guest and I start asking you guys questions. I know. Hey,
there you go.
But that's all. Hey, everything's fair game. You know, we're all in love here with Chris Arps on this program. All right. So, Chris, first things first. There is really a tussle going on in the Democrat Party. We see the leadership, in some cases lukewarm, in other cases just full in, heels dug in support of Biden. Some minor players in the congressional caucus, as well as some major players in the media saying it's time to get out. Michael Moore. Biden writes a letter to the Democrats yesterday saying, I'm the only one that can beat him. That's why I'm running. What's your analysis on where this is heading at this point, now about 10 days post-debate?
I think this is the make it or break it week for Joe Biden's candidacy to be renominated to president. For the last week or 10 days or so, Congress has been out of session for the 4th of July holiday recess. They've all been back in their districts hearing what people have been saying about the situation. Now you have them all back in Congress, and they all get to talk and compare notes and everything. And I think this will be the most pressure on Biden this week to resign. I think it's a foregone conclusion. It's just convincing him and Jill that this is a foregone conclusion. I mean, you've got Jim Clyburn, who practically saved Joe Biden's presidency during the 2020 South Carolina primary. He has said that he would be open to having, quote unquote, a blitz primary in order for them to select a new nominee if Joe Biden can't go forward. He's been talking about earlier also that Kamala Harris, that she shouldn't be passed up at first if there is an opening. So you're seeing all of these people that are saying they love President Biden, they love what he's done for the country and for their party, but for their own self-preservation. And as you know, Randy, self-preservation is the first thing in a politician's mind. Yeah. That's what this is going to happen in this situation. Self-preservation, Joe, you got to go. You're dragging us down.
Chris, the guy on the other side of the ballot, Donald Trump, has come out and endorsed former state Senator Bob Onder in CD3. Any surprise for you there, or business as usual?
Well, this is a huge endorsement for Dr. Onder. We had him on the show yesterday to announce it. I don't think many people should be surprised that he received that endorsement. You remember Bob was one of the official surrogates for the president in Iowa during the caucuses this week. He's been very strong MAGA, very pro Donald Trump, and I think this was more than anything a foregone conclusion that he'd get that endorsement. What I'm curious, because I don't live in the 3rd district and that's not particularly my area, how strong will a Donald Trump endorsement be in the 3rd district?
It's hard to know. The only thing I know for sure is that Donald Trump doesn't hand out endorsements these days like political parade candy. And, he really doesn't. And so I think you don't hear a lot of endorsements by Trump. In some cases, in past elections, it has not helped him. I think it remains to be seen, but I think it's probably, something no one in the race would deny if they were given the endorsement.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
if you remember, in 2020, Trump endorsed the two Erics.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, and Bob Onder will be on the program tomorrow morning. Bob Onder will join us tomorrow on Wake Up in Missouri.
Excellent.
Obviously every candidate in Missouri wants the Trump endorsement, and they all are seeking that. And I think for a lot of people it matters. I think in mid-Missouri we have a different equation here in that the way that they did the congressional redistricting, we now have, somebody who represents part of our district lives in Kansas City. Onder doesn't even live in congressional District 3. He lives in St. Louis. And so Kurt Schaefer is Columbia through and through. He's our mid-Missouri candidate. And I think in that way, he has a connection to the university, is an alum. I think Bob Onder went to St. Louis High, St. Louis U, Wash U. And so I think for folks who really care about the university and care about mid-Missouri, this is our only chance to be represented in D.C., and I think Kurt would do a really good job.
And I tell you what surprised me. I emceed the Jefferson County Lincoln Day dinner a couple of weeks ago, and Senator Schaefer was there, and I was talking to him about the 3rd District. Is it very conservative, blah, blah. And he and I'm going to have him on the show. He said some things that were very conservative. He had some pretty good shots at Bob Onder's conservatism, which kind of struck me, some of the votes he took. So I think Senator Schaefer will be competing very hard for the conservative vote that Bob Onder is as well in that district. Like you said, Stephanie, I don't know if that Donald Trump's endorsement will carry a whole lot of weight in that district, but we shall see.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the impact of Trump's endorsement, I don't care whether it's in Congressional District 3 in Missouri or in Timbuktu in Maine or Wisconsin, it really has a lot to do with Donald Trump. You think about it, if his behavior is more regulated, and we have to say, as Joe Biden has been self-immolating here since this debate, it's interesting. Trump has been remarkably disciplined, and he has, for the most part, stood down. I've been pretty pleased, actually, to see some self-regulating on his part. How about you?
Chris Lasivita, who is running President Trump's campaign, should get a medal, all type of things, because he is, out of all 3 of Donald Trump's presidential campaigns, this has been the most professionally run. Last week, in 2016 or 2020, if Joe Biden or his opponent would have been going through these troubles, he would have been on TV and Twitter every other hour practically talking about this. The fact that he stayed silent on this and let the Democrats bury themselves was remarkable. And Chris Lasivita, the campaign manager, deserves a lot of credit for how this campaign has been run.
I mean, I think the only thing he might love as much as tweeting, truth socialing is golf. And I have noticed he's been golfing an awful lot. So maybe they're bribing him like, hey, do you want to spend the day on the campaign trail?
Yeah.
How about another round of golf? I do think it's really, I think you're right. I think we're seeing a new Trump, and I think it's going to matter as we head into the general election. Now, Chris, any other predictions as far as, we're getting so close. We think we're under a week until the VP announcement. You got any predictions for us?
I tell you, the latest speculation that I read yesterday, that it's between Burgum and Marco Rubio. Wow. Rubio is still in the mix, even though his name has not been bandied about as much. I think it's going to be between Burgum and
Tim Scott.
The other not Tim Scott. The other two. J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance. Now, the only thing that I think about J.D. Vance, he's very articulate. He's very pro-Trump. I don't know, but he may compete with Donald Trump when it comes to the spotlight and attention, and that may be one negative for him. Burgum's got a lot of money. He can contribute it to the campaign, and, he's not going to excite a lot of people, Doug Burgum, compared to Donald Trump.
I'd love to go back and pull audio from when Burgum competed in the presidential debates, because we were like, who, what? Yeah. And, he was like basically bribing people, offering people gift cards to donate to his campaign just so he could get on the stage. And so he was a nobody. But then at the same time, we've had nobody VP picks before. And granted, a nobody being a governor. But you get where I'm going, Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know, though.
I have...
Chris, it was just a few weeks ago, Kevin O'Leary, of course, big-time Shark Tank business guy, he really endorsed strongly Doug Burgum. He says, I worked with that guy up in North Dakota. We did some business things there. This guy, if Trump's looking for a CFO, this is the guy, or a COO, this is the dude.
His debate answers were so good, and he can ride a horse, and he stood through the entire debate with an Achilles injury.
As long as he doesn't take his shirt off like Putin.
Come on. He's well-rounded, he's smart, he's a business guy. I like him.
Okay, so we have John, you and I are the only non-identity politics guys here in this conversation. Okay, so we have Chris, African American. We got Stephanie and Hannah.
Randy's
women.
still rooting for a beautiful woman. He wants
No.
No,
I'm not a Chris. I'm actually
Tulsi.
No, well, I like Tulsi, but I don't know. She's just got a lot of too liberal views, unless she's changed some of those, like single-payer health care. but I really like the Senator Katie Britt from Alabama, but I'd not heard her name, but I think she's fantastic. Okay, so what about the fact, my predicate here is, aren't we in an environment where, like it or not, identity politics is in play? And if you go for an older white guy from North Dakota, how does that address the woman thing, the minority thing, the Hispanic thing, the Black American thing? Is he missing an opportunity there to fill in some of those gaps that are going to make the difference, those 20, 30, 50, 80,000 votes that make the difference?
Okay.
Look, I think the woman thing was addressed yesterday when the National Platform Committee watered down the abortion plank in the platform. I think that was the appeal to women for Donald Trump, to say, hey, let's throw it back to the states instead of a federal ban on abortion. I think that's their reach out to women. I think when it comes to minorities, Trump's like, hey, I'm getting 25, 27% of the black vote in some of these polls. I'm doing very well with minorities, Hispanics as well. So I may not need to have a minority vice presidential candidate to get that non-traditional Republican vote.
All right. Well, I want to play something for you. I'm going to take a minute here. It's a little extended, but I rolled on the ground, Chris. I rolled on the ground when I saw Charles Payne on Gutfeld. I don't know if you've heard this or seen this. This is a gut buster.
Because we're working at different times. What is your take on how the media is now shifting into, I'm an investigative reporter. I'm an investigative reporter.
The barn opening door, the analogy made was fantastic, because the debate was it. Mm-hmm. That was not a cheap fake. Everyone watched it and they're like, what the hell is going on? But the crazy thing is, I printed this up. Remember when they found that they did this big investigation, they found, well, Joe Biden probably committed a lot of crimes, but he's too feeble to stand trial. So Biden says, I'm an elderly man. I know what the hell I'm doing. I mean, God, that headline right there was it. Dude. This is how many months ago? This is crazy. Yeah. It's been in plain sight. He's been saying crazy for so long, and we just got to look the other way. But my favorite is when he's around the brothers, right? Yeah. Like the Juneteenth celebration. And then this Sunday, he was at the black church. Every time he's around black people, it looks like he wants to call the police.
He used to.
He said, bring a whole gang of paddy wagons, round them all up. We'll figure out the charges later. The face. Did you see it at the church?
Yes.
He was scared as hell. He said, I was raised in a black church, and the guy had to show him how to give the offering. Like, what? We usually take it money, not giving it. I'm a Biden, damn it.
He just was rolling. And he basically made the point. He says, look, and he made it in another more serious way on another show. Charles Payne is saying, look, for blacks to think that Joe Biden and the Democrats have helped the African-American community, they are out of their minds. And I think
Charles
battles in the past, I remember, on both sides, both the Democrats and the Republicans. As Chris Arps was saying, they have watered down the abortion stance compared to previously, right? Mm-hmm. Previously, I think, wasn't it? They were advocating a national prohibition, right? Federal.
And now they kind of have the leave it to the states,
echoing what Donald Trump has said on the stump.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love that. And I know our former representative, Sarah Walsh, who now works for Missouri Right to Life, has had a lot to say on her Facebook. So if you really want to dig down into the issues about what language she wanted and what language ultimately got adopted, she's done a really good job of breaking that down. But the entire platform is like a series of tweets rather than, something really detailed. And apparently we have not adopted a new platform since 2016. We didn't do it in 2020, citing the COVID pandemic. But the platform now is just 16 pages. It starts with the bulleted list. I believe that is about it's a quarter of the length of the 16 platform. So 25%. And I think when we're talking about what we stand for as a party, we should be detailed.
I agree. Some of this does sound very tweetish. I mean, one of the bullet points I'm seeing on what he posts on Truth Social, deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses. Well, who determines what a radical is? And is he going to squelch free speech? I want pro-Hamas people to be able to peacefully protest. I don't want them to take over the campus, but it's abhorrent what they're saying, but I defend their right to say it. So those kind of things, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for what the future of our party looks like. And, I have we have a big tent. Mm-hmm. I have differing views than other people in that tent. And I think, I'd like to get into this discussion because I saw it in the context of the Onder endorsement yesterday. And he had retweeted something someone else had tweeted and said, this is our Freedom Caucus guy, not the Main Street guy. And I've heard that too. These are Chamber of Commerce Republicans said in a negative way. And I'm like, when was it negative to be the Main Street or the Chamber of Commerce people? This has always been the backbone of our small communities. When I look around in Jefferson City, I feel like I grew up as a young professional within the chamber. I mean, those are the icons of our community and people who I know worked really hard to get where they were. And I'm like, why is that a bad thing? Why is, and so I think when I'm looking at the platform, I think there's a lot of discussion to be had. And I don't think this is not necessarily, I think, where I want to go on just a shorter version.
Speaking of Jefferson City, there's a new ad hoc task force that's, in the formation. We'll talk about that when we come back on Wake Up in Missouri. And Assistant Chief Fire Chief Blomenkamp joins us later.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
Well, good morning. As we wait for the sun to peek out, maybe that'll happen before the summer's over. I don't know. It seems like the weather has just been some of the strangest we've seen. We continue to look at flash flood warnings, watches, and, I guess the spinoff from Hurricane Beryl, who hit the Texas coast, which hit the Texas coast yesterday, and probably be tracking up this way today through this evening and tomorrow. We are also following some other stories. It's not all just about what Joe Biden and Jill and the family are going to decide to do, because ultimately it looks like they are going to make the decision, no matter what anyone tells them. But locally and regionally, we continue to struggle with the problems that I think you see throughout areas of the country, and that is homelessness, whether it's Columbia, whether it's Jefferson City. And Jefferson City, we see, is formed an ad hoc committee. Well, they're in the process of forming. They've approved an ad hoc committee to address this problem, a task force. John, what do you know about this? And I understand this has been tried before. They tried to get this going before, but it didn't happen. But now the Committee on Administration has authorized the formation of this, as I understand, right?
Yeah, it was kind of a changing of the guard a little bit at Jefferson City's council in the last election. So they came up with this idea of the ad hoc committee, and they've already said, it's kind of a tired phrase sometime to say, well, we want to be proactive as opposed to reactive and all. But they've got 5 councilmen involved, but they've involved a lot of partner agencies from around the city, the HCJC, which is Housing the Community, Jefferson City, and Jefferson City's Room at the Inn, and Landmark Recovery. And they say if they can maybe reach out to these people, not just give them, a little pat on the back and a meal once in a while, that they might be able to actually make some inroads with these individuals. It sounds, if nothing else, it sounds like their heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
It's a tough one for me, I think. But I certainly, folks are, I think certainly downtown Jefferson City, you've seen, a lot of businesses, I think, move. There are some, opportunities for anyone who's looking for them. But certainly it's been tough for those folks. I know over the weekend, someone I know had feces on their front stoop of their business with used toilet paper. And that's tough. That is tough. At the same time, I think how much money, I like to think of it as how much money are we spending per capita for some of these problems? And here it's Jefferson City faces a lot of problems. And relatively, I think few, homeless people. And so when we think, what's with our homeless population, that's really causing us issues that are underserved in whatever way. I think it's pretty few, but we're spending a lot of time and effort in trying to figure that out. And so we have to find a balance, I think.
Well, it's interesting. On the jeffersoncitymO.gov website, as they're calling for volunteers, the primary goal, it says the primary goal of the committee is to create a collaborative approach that brings together various stakeholders. I love all this great talk, so pablum for these kind of things. Various stakeholders, including law enforcement, local leaders, city departments, faith-based organizations, nonprofit groups, and community members. Now, I didn't see the word business leaders mentioned. And when you think about the vibrance, the vitality, the very pillars of the community, especially in a downtown area, which is where these people tend to assemble, you got to have your business people involved. They've got to have a strong voice, because without a strong business foundation, a city's going to really crumble, right? You got to have that. And so I hope that, local leaders, I hope that means business people, community members, I hope that means business people and people that would patronize those businesses. We'll have to see how it's all going to work out.
Yeah, it's tough for me, John. You said or Randy, maybe you said this, that their heart's in the right place. And I know we have tons of people in the community that want to help. I think the question is, do some of these people want help? Are they willing to accept it?
Yeah, right.
Because we hear that so many times. There's a lot of homeless folks who don't want to be housed. They don't want to be in a shelter environment or a tiny house or something like that. And I think for a lot of people in Jefferson City, it's like if you've ever been downtown in Columbia and had somebody get in your face and give you a really hard time, some of those individuals, you really don't want to see that in Jefferson City either. But with the closure of a lot of the camps up there, we had one of the police captains tell us that said, you close the place up there and they get the word that Jefferson City may be a soft touch, and they say, the heck with Columbia, we're headed south.
Well, look, kudos to Ron Fitzwater, Mayor Fitzwater, and the council for getting in front of it. Good for that. But I think it resonates, Stephanie, and you've brought this up more than once, and I'm glad you have, and I think it is something that we should remember almost in every situation, what the Vitae Foundation speaker said about, what was it?
Love somebody enough to tell them the truth.
That's like their vision statement, their mission statement or something. But
love
someone enough to tell them the truth. And I think whether they want it or not, they need to understand that their freedom, these homeless people's freedom, ends where it encroaches on my freedom. You know what I mean?
Well, we all wake up every day and we can't just do whatever we want. I mean, there are rules. And so I think for some of these services, the people put in place rules, and for whatever reason, folks don't want to follow the rules. And then, there's some sort of disagreement. Now we've had who was that, Hannah? Homeless Ed? We've had him on the show.
Ed from Boonville.
And he told us, he's like, I like my life. I don't want to be, pushed into these other things and have to do this. I want to be unhoused, and that's how I live, and I'm not bothered by it.
Well, good, but I don't want you to poop in front of my store.
And he wasn't.
He did not.
Or be a danger
to
yourself
generically
or somewhere else. And so I think, it's tough. I go to a church in downtown Jefferson City. We have had the tough conversations. I have sat and been stressed with my mother, who it weighs on her mind about how to be a compassionate Christian and at the same time remain safe and give people what they need. And I don't know what the answer is. We're not the only people struggling with this. I was absolutely shocked and actually had a couple words with the mayor of Springfield. I was down there and we walked around their downtown, and I could not believe in Springfield, Missouri. I don't know why.
Wow.
They are a bigger city than Jefferson City, but I was, I've been there before, just absolutely shocked. And he said, yeah, we're struggling with it just like everyone else.
But this is in the larger category of, in our modern 21st century secular society, where postmodernism is defined by my truth is my truth. What I want to do is the most important thing in the world. I am my own God. I will do what I want, and you are there to support me and enable me. You're to give me health care. You're to give me housing, a cell phone. You're to give me food. You're to give me take care of me, because by golly, that's my right and that's what I want. And I think that we've lost the sense of societal norms and lanes and expectations. And you may not like it. This is our expectation. Now we're going to help you to comply with that. Like I think of a military model. I think of a child model. Sometimes people who are out of bounds and they've lost their bearings and they're helpless and homeless, the best thing they could ever do, as Jordan Peterson writes in 12 Rules for Life, get up, make your bed every morning, clean up your room, and it feels good. You may not think so, but it feels good. But there needs to be some accountability for this kind of behavior, and I hope that weighs on this committee.
Well, and I think there's an assumption there that they have that ability, in that, I think COVID weighed on a lot of folks. I feel like there are some people who struggle with addiction and other mental health issues. I mean, do I think Joe Biden wanted to poop his pants on stage or really mess that debate up? No. I mean, some people don't have the mental faculties to just wake up and make their bed and get things done. And the question for us is, how do we compassionately, fiscally responsibly handle this situation? I have gotten confirmation from our Mayor Fitzwater that the business community will be well represented.
You mean to tell me that there's suddenly been an explosion of the diagnosis of homeless psychopathy?
I think
that in the last 5 years, no, come on. Mental illness doesn't suddenly arise out of nothingness in a matter of a couple of years. There's always been mental illness. Why is it now acceptable to express that on the streets of our great cities? Why don't we have institutions to get these people the help they need, even if they don't think they need it.
I think the data has borne out that we have significantly more mental health issues now than, and I don't know what the science is behind it, but I think, and then add Joe Biden's economy on top of that.
That's why we need to get rid of TikTok. No, I'm kidding.
There is. You guys bring up a very good point, and I lived in Jefferson City 3 times, like Stephanie did, and loved it. I loved the 3 times I worked in Jefferson City. 1 for the state, 2 working in radio. And I will tell you, I have never seen this many homeless people as there now. And I know our audience at KWS is nodding their head in agreement. They have not seen, and our listeners tell me, KWS listeners tell me that a lot of these homeless people coming into Jefferson City are not even from Missouri. They're from out of state. So I don't know. I don't know if there's certain services they're seeking. John, you probably heard the same thing. And I'd point out one other thing. When I covered the Jesse Williams, the guy that was convicted of throwing the woman off the bridge, the 2 really star witnesses that helped convict him were homeless people. They were homeless people, and they asked him where are they from, and both of them were from out of state. One was from Little Rock. The other woman was from North Carolina.
Yeah,
they live in Columbia. So, again, I just don't know how they got here.
I'm sorry. I just think we have some fundamental problems that promote the kind of behavior that instead of seeking out a fulfilling, hardworking, productive life, from day one now, we don't let kids go to work for older people who demand that they show up on time, and if they don't, make them accountable. Oh, we can't have kids working because we can't work. It's child abuse. We coddle our children. The society enables the kind of behavior that gets people into a funk. And when you're in a funk, what do? You self-medicate. You look for drugs. You look for alcohol. The root causes of this problem are so deep and so broad and so wide. I don't think a task force is going to solve it. But I hope that accountability, and frankly, I'm just going to use the word, forcing people to feel what it is to be productive and fulfilled, whether they like it or not, that's got to be part of the solution. Go out and fill some potholes, put in a good day's work. Then we'll put a roof over your head, a blanket over your body at night, an air-conditioned abode, and food. And guess what? Next morning, you're going to get up and feel good because you made a difference again. I'm sorry. I feel strongly about that.
So put them to work.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck.
Chris, what do you have to say? Quickly.
Good morning, guys. Moving to Missouri about 3 years ago from out west, Nevada, California, Washington area, there was a big problem with this, and part of it is people who don't want to blend in with traditional society for whatever reason. It's nice not to have any responsibilities in their eyes. Another part of this, from my perception, was the mental health issue. A lot of mental health, there's just no money to be made in mental health. When you consider social workers,
you're right.
Counselors and things of that nature who have to spend $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 for a master's education before they can provide services, only to get out and make $40,000 a year. It's just not. There's not a whole lot of return fiscally on investment.
Chris, I think another problem with our social work setup is, though, a lot of it now comes from the government. They can't. If you're from government, as I understand it, you really can't. You can't evangelize. You can't say, hey, you know what? Instead of drugs, why don't you look at Jesus? You can't do that because you're from the government, and that's the problem, right?
Right. It's a blanket solution. It's broad stroke solutions that miss the cracks in the foundation. It may make the house look pretty for a moment, but eventually the house is going to break.
Yeah. All right.
And 2, we dealt with the ACLU out in Las Vegas when we were trying to develop workforce things for homeless folks, and it was determined that it was against their civil rights to have to work.
Yeah, well, it's against my civil rights to have my hard work and those who are listening here be taxed to support people who decide, well, I just want to live on the streets and you're going to take care of me. I'm sorry. We got to say, at some point, we've got to say there are societal norms. We're going to help you comply with the societal norms because guess what? One thing we do know, it is really good for the human soul to be productive. Really good. I
agree, Doc. You guys
The Olympics are coming up. We're on full Olympics watch. I know Stephanie and I have been enjoying the Olympics side of TikTok, getting that behind-the-scenes look at the athletes that are in the process of qualifying for the Paris Olympics. And I stumbled across and I'm sorry, this whole segment's going to be on this theme, a poo protest.
Oh, no.
In Paris.
I've seen this.
Say that 3 times fast. A poo protest in Paris, and it involves the legendary, is it the Seine River?
The Seine?
The Seine.
Or the Seine?
I found
is it the Seine? I don't know.
I found many different ways to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But it runs through the city of Paris, and it's pretty much known for being disgusting.
Ugh.
And they're supposed to hold open water Olympic swimming in this river. Now, with 3 weeks left to go until the Olympics, it's still sort of up in the air on if they're going to be able to clean the river enough to get E. coli levels low enough so that we can put Olympians in the water. It's been illegal to swim in this river for 100 years because the water quality is that bad. There's lots of sewage systems in the city that still dump into this river.
Without treatment? Just, make it dirty. Yeah.
So the city of Paris over the last several years, as they've been preparing for the Olympics, they've spent like $1.5 billion euros on a new sewage system that they're trying to convince the people of Paris to put their businesses and homes on to sort of bypass the river. Now, water quality has improved, but it's still not quite where it needs to be.
Can you imagine being a swimmer looking at that prospect?
Somebody called John
Occurred here in the Columbia area after a water rescue, and the Assistant Chief, Matt Tobin, was drowned. Joining us now is Assistant Chief for the Boone County Fire Protection District, Gale Blomenkamp, joins us here on this very dark day in Columbia. How you doing, Gale? Everything going okay, brother?
Yep, we're doing okay.
You doing all right?
Yep, we're doing all right.
All right. I know firefighters are tough by nature, right? That's why you're driven to this profession. But it's got to be tough for you and all of Chief Tobin's colleagues, right?
Yeah, it is. Yesterday was a tough day. Today's a tough day, and then there's going to be many more to come.
Yeah. And especially potentially having to face similar situations and go out there and get up on the horse, as it were, and do it again. I mean, I can't imagine what that does to folks that are having to face that, that challenge.
At 4:30 this morning, we had 22 people heading to another water rescue. It was called in on North Route Z as in zebra, north of town. And so, getting right back on the horse again. We had water rescue this morning, and luckily everything worked well, and that person was actually out of his vehicle and out of the water when we arrived.
Well, God bless you all, and all of those, his family, his co-workers, and everyone connected with the district. Are you comfortable telling us about sort of the story of how this all unfolded yesterday? Because, I don't think folks know the details. Many of the folks weighing in on the Facebook page are curious. How does this happen?
So the 911 center started receiving water rescue calls about 3:45 yesterday morning for the City of Columbia Fire Department. And so they were running other rescues when this one actually came in. And so they called for assistance from us, the fire district. And we responded, and we actually arrived with some of their members. We launched our boat. Chief Tobin was the captain or the operator of that boat. Had a Columbia firefighter with him.
The boat is what? Describe the boat.
Yeah, it's a Zodiac, black inflatable Zodiac boat. So meant to hold 4 to 6 people. Mm-hmm. So we have 2 people in there. We're going to rescue 2 that are stuck in trees.
It has an outboard motor?
It does have a small outboard jet motor.
Okay.
So we're working our way upstream from Rangeline Street and Bear Creek. Mm-hmm. And so we're going east. These people are trapped behind a trailer court, stuck in trees, actually. And so we made it to them. They've got those people out of the trees into the boat. They're going to continue upstream to where one of those Columbia fire trucks is parked and offload these people and make this successful rescue. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the motor on the boat quit. We lost power on the boat. They immediately called a mayday over the radio, and they're headed back downstream now, backwards, trying to get power back on this boat. Unfortunately, the boat overturns. All 4 people inside the boat were thrown from the boat, obviously. The Columbia firefighter was found floating downstream and was able to get himself to the edge and out. The other 2 victims that were originally rescued, they got to shore. Unfortunately, Chief Tobin didn't make it out.
Did he get tangled up in some boat paraphernalia? Or what happened?
So the Missouri State Highway Patrol Water Division is doing the investigation.
Yeah.
And when we found Chief Tobin, he was actually tangled in some rope around his ankles that was also wrapped up in the boat itself.
Wow.
So he was like on it. He was like an anchor. The force of the water either took his life jacket off, or he shed his life jacket, which is what they're trained to do. If they're in trouble, they will get rid of that life jacket so they can move and make an attempt to rescue themselves.
So his feet are tethered upstream.
Yep.
He's downstream, and it's a torrential. Like white water, right?
Yeah, white water moving 12 to 15 miles an hour. So there's no way a human body can come against that.
Right, to
force.
try to, as we've learned, that's why people get even a vehicle will get swept away, much less a human being trying to basically bend at the hip and maybe get up to cut the rope. He was just unable to fight that current.
Yeah, it was just too much force.
Oh, my God. It's just tragic. I just can't imagine.
It really is. Randy, I encourage people to, and I appreciate Mr. Blomenkamp coming in, 939theeagle.com and KWS.com. I was at the press conference yesterday, very emotional. I have a lot of extra audio from Gale and also from Chief Olson, 93.9 The Eagle and KWS.com. 2 quick questions, and Randy did a nice job setting this up. Horrible situation. Gale, how close, Assistant Chief Blomenkamp, how close you mentioned they were going towards where the fire truck was stationed. How close did they get to that before that boat, basically, the motor went out?
I'm not exactly sure how close they were. I know they could see it. Obviously, that's where they were going. So within eyesight. Yeah.
In one of the TV reporters, and I've had listeners ask as well, and you guys didn't know, I was asking these two people that were stuck in trees. They were asking if they were homeless people. Is there been any determination if those people were homeless yet?
No, we have not heard any details on that. To us, it doesn't really matter if they're homeless or not homeless. It's just one of those situations where people needed help. That's what we do. That's what we're here for, and that's what we went after.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Chief, how about a caution to folks out there, because we've seen so many times that people have driven through low water crossings around their homes, and they've done it a zillion times. It only takes once, doesn't it?
It does. It only takes one time, and we believe that's probably what occurred last Wednesday on Gillespie Bridge Road. As you know, those people are local. That road floods all the time, and I know people drive through there and maybe hundreds of times, and it just takes that one incident, and things go from good to tragic in a minute.
Now, there is a procession occurring today. Can you tell us more about that?
So there will be a procession escorting Chief Tobin from the medical examiner's office to Union Fire Department in Union, Missouri. That's where he's from. He was born and raised there. 19-year veteran of the Union Fire Department. He's been on the Missouri Task Force 1 since 2012. He started to work with us on May 1st, just a couple months ago. Wow. So he's going home, and that's where he needs to be.
When does that procession start?
I've got the Missouri Fire Service Funeral Assistance Team Facebook page open. It says departure time from Columbia 10:15. Procession will travel Interstate 70 to Highway 47 toward Union.
Yeah, so there's going to be an opportunity for local people here in the Columbia area to pay tribute during this procession. I'm not sure the details have been worked out from the Emmy's office to I-70, whether we're going Stadium to 63 or we're going to take Providence down to I-70. But I will get you guys that information. And keep an eye on the Boone County Fire Protection District Facebook page. That's where we'll be posting all these details.
Chief Blomenkamp, what kind of resources are available to Chief Tobin's family, and for that matter, to his colleagues who clearly are going to have a lot of, we hear about survivor guilt and other things. I mean, there's a lot of emotional spin-off from an event like this.
Yeah, so, the assistance for the family is whatever they need. I mean, we will provide, and we can provide that. We have an employee assistance program through the fire district for counseling services through Brave Counseling. They were at our office yesterday to visit with people as they needed to talk. They do a wonderful job, and they're great people over there. And you're right, Randy. There are many emotions that people are going to go through, and it's sadness, it is anger, it's fear, it's guilt, it's all of those things, and every emotion like that is normal, right? As you well know. The problem is when somebody gets stuck in one of those areas and they can't work through all of the progression. And so we really have to keep our eyes open for people that are struggling.
And that's where the brotherhood component of first responder, groups is so important, right? Because even if the person is not self-aware that they're falling into the chasm, there's enough camaraderie and trust that if your friend grabs you by the arm and says, "Hey, dude, you got a problem. Can we help?"
Yeah,
it means something.
You're not normal right now.
Right,
and they may not recognize that in themselves. And it happens to me, and it's happened to me in the past. And I mean, it can happen to anybody. And so you really have to look out for one another. And that's, like you said, the brotherhood is what it's about there.
The Highway Patrol, and you mentioned the Water Division, is conducting the investigation into, and Randy, you asked about the boat. It's a Zodiac. Like you said, it's an inflatable boat. They're doing that investigation, and the Water Patrol, actually, division was on scene as early as yesterday. Any sense of a time frame for how long an investigation like that could take place?
It's hard to say. We don't know. We met with them yesterday. They interviewed two of our members that were on scene in command roles with the city of Columbia, and so they're getting all that background information. They'll look at the boat. They'll look into the motor of the boat. they'll look at the records of all of that stuff to try to figure out exactly what happened. And what we know now clearly looks to just be one of those tragic accidents. It's not like our last line of duty death where somebody wasn't paying attention and rear-ended a vehicle. So there's nobody to blame. And that's one of the hardest things for people to get by.
This is one of those instances where, in safety science, we talk about the Swiss cheese theory.
Yeah.
You have redundancy so that it's very unlikely that those slices of Swiss cheese, all of the holes match up to where the arrow gets through and kills someone.
Right.
You have, all kinds of precautions and training, but inevitably, the nature of this world is that inevitably, on rare occasions, the holes in the Swiss cheese line up, and no matter what you do, something bad ends up happening.
That's a really great analogy, and there was nobody more trained or better situated to be in that position than Chief Tobin was. Mm-hmm. He teaches swiftwater rescue technician classes. He teaches the boat operation classes. He's the guy that, he didn't just learn this last year. He's been doing this for 19 years, and so he's made lots of rescues. He's the guy that should be in that boat doing that work yesterday morning, and unfortunately, the holes lined up.
And I don't know if we'll ever know, but I would speculate that his first thought as this was coming down was for the safety of the other people in the boat, not his own. I'm certain of that.
Yeah, that's just the way he was. That's the way most firefighters are, and I guarantee you that's the kind of person that Matt Tobin is.
I've covered many, I can't tell you how many stories I've interviewed you or gone to press conferences, fires, accidents, floods, tornadoes, Gale. But for our listeners, when I saw you walk out of that building yesterday, the Boone County Fire District, and walk to that podium, and tons of cameras, tons of media were there, not just from the area, from outside as well. I could just see it in your face. You were, I don't know how to describe it. You were.
It's difficult.
Yeah. There's a shock that occurs.
Yeah, and we just did this.
Yeah.
In 2021.
Yeah.
A lot of firefighters will go their whole career and never have to deal with this, and bless those guys that have that opportunity. And unfortunately for the fire district, we've had two now in 2.5 years. It's difficult, and it wears on us and it weighs on us, but the support from our community is astounding. We appreciate it, and we recognize the support from everybody. The other agencies in the emergency services world have offered anything that we need. They're willing to help us, and that's really what it's about. It's a community that comes together for tragedies when it happens. And I stopped to get a soda on my way in here this morning, and the lady that was cooking in the back, she come around and gave me a hug and just said thank you, and that means a lot.
Well, you have to know that this audience, this radio crew, worships at the altar of the fire folks, the police folks, the first responders. And in this case, that there will be just legions of prayers today and going forward.
Right.
So for you, for those who survive, his family, and those of you who have to face danger sooner than you'd rather like to.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So we really do appreciate you, and thank you for coming in. I know it's difficult to relive this, but thanks for relating it for everyone.
Well, we appreciate you guys and the support that you've always had for us. Yeah. So thank you.
And definitely keep us posted, and I'll look at the Facebook with that procession where I think people are very interested.
We'll give some details on routes so you can get it out,
and we'll post it on our social. All right.
Thank you,
Chief Gale Blomenkamp. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Godspeed, best wishes, and thank you.
First, Lee responded, "You get the name your own price." After getting his hot drinks, the customer allegedly got out of his car and threw them back through the drive-thru window at the barista and then spit on her. But she fought back. She grabbed a hammer, leaned out the window, and punched a hole in his windshield.
Oh, no.
Lakeland, Florida, June 14th. Customers at Mickey D's were unhappy with an incorrect order. They argued with Chastity Gardner before starting to drive away, and that's when Gardner threw a drink at the car. Two customers got out, opened the drive-thru window, and threw their drinks at Gardner, who then grabbed a gun and walked outside, firing at least one shot at the car as they sped off. She was arrested, and the moral of the story is, if they substitute honey mustard for your sweet and sour nugget sauce, just keep your darn mouth shut. Now you know the rest of that story.
Hey, Chris, I'm looking at a text cred from Chris that was with us earlier. John, it makes me think. We were on the way home from Destin. We stopped at a couple fast food places, and
Randy.
And I have taken. Well,
we had the carrot sticks.
The grandkids with us. One of them.
Now we're blaming other.
One
people.
of them was Chick-fil-A. It was pretty.
What'd you eat?
But I have to tell you, at Chick-fil-A, I've gotten to checking what's in the bag because it seems like in the last few years you don't always get in the bag what you ordered. So I just stop by and check. Okay, so a couple of the honey mustards weren't in there that whoever in the car, I think Helene wanted something for. But you know what? So they forgot. I just stopped and I walked in. They were the most pleasant, stop what they were doing and help me that way.
They're known for that.
I know, it was beautiful. But have you noticed that over the past few years, I think it's because, I don't know why, but it seems like there's a little more lapse in accuracy in bagging the product. Is that just me, or have I had a series of bad experiences or not?
That could be, and it's sort of that a lot of times they're having challenges with getting good staff who want to work it. Then I'm sure on the staff who are good ones, they get a little tired after they've heard for the 100th time today, was this hamburger made out of gold? How much is it?
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. I think it's a reflection of the workforce issues. I really do. A lot of turnover. It takes a lot of training to fulfill those jobs.
Well, I think if we were judged on how our accuracy and how many times our mic wasn't off or we played the wrong music or whatever, I mean, I had some serious flubs last week, so I'm not going to fault the fast food people with getting my order wrong.
No, I think it's a workforce issue. I just think that they really struggle to keep a trained workforce.
I think that no one's perfect.
Except Hannah and John.
Apparently.
All right. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Brad Jones. We'll talk to him about some workforce issues and others. National Federation of Independent Business, Missouri Director. Stay tuned.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome back into the third hour of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Here on a Tuesday where, again, the clouds are a-floating, and I don't know if they're going to dump some more goodness on us. Well, I don't know how good it is, but I guess it's good to have some of it, not too much. Today or not, we'll see. We talk a lot about national events and the president resigning and politics and the convention, but you know what really is the engine of America? It's small business. That's why it's always so fun when we get together with Brad Jones, the director of Missouri's chapter of the National Federation of Independent Business. He joins us now, as he does the second Tuesday of every month. How you doing, Brad?
Well, you're going to have to deal with my cold this morning, so that's just the way it goes. But
my sense, Brad, would be that despite your cold, unlike other leaders that we've seen in America recently, you will be cogent, brilliant, and precise and beautiful as always in your articulation of what's going on in the small business world.
Oh man, does that remain to be seen this morning? We'll just have to hang on and see what happens. But,
hey, well, thanks for being with us. What's going on in small business land?
Well, I talked to you last time, and I said sort of the watchword last month was uncertainty, and so we just got the Small Business Economic Trends Survey out this morning, and if it was uncertain last month, it is really uncertain this month because it looks like a lot of the main factors that we look at in the SBET survey really have remained somewhat flat from last month, which means that they're not really wanting to do anything too dramatic out there in the small business world. And I'm going to point out just a couple of things. The overall optimism index went up 1 point, which is not anything to necessarily crow about since it's at 91.9, and I think historically the whole average is like 98 to get even up to the average. So it's still down there. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. First of all, in the uncertainty world, and actually the middle of NFIB's crosshairs. I mean, this is going to take all of our attention from now until next year, is passing the Main Street Tax Certainty Act. We've got several co-sponsors from Missouri, and what is that? Well, in 2017, we passed the tax cuts, and the small businesses that benefited from that most are your LLCs, and your smallest businesses, your LLCs, your partnerships, and that was about a 20% tax. Well, that is going to go away at the end of 2025, and I think a lot of companies out there are really, really looking at what's going to happen if we don't get that passed. Well, and we've got two presidential candidates. One says he's going to extend it, and the other says he's going to get rid of it and move on to raising tax rates on corporations and the wealthy, now whatever that means, who allegedly don't pay their fair share. So we at NFIB have put a committee together. I mean, we are really working hard with our members of Congress and our members to make sure that Congress knows exactly what the ramifications are going to be if we don't extend those tax cuts. It's going to be a death knell, I'm afraid, to thousands of small businesses, and you're talking about millions here. This is a huge deal for the small business community. So, in getting back to the SBET, it's just one of those things that they're looking at. I think too the small business owners out there are looking at what the Fed's going to do too. Interest rates are very important to small businesses, and they're high right now. And you've got small businesses out there that a lot of them, they have to pay. They don't own their buildings; they pay leases and they pay rent. And we're seeing that go up, and consequently, as I told you last month, we've got almost 40% said that their costs are going up, and consequently, about 40% of them said, we're going to charge more, and they have charged more, and we've got 22% that said we are definitely going to be raising our prices in the next 3 months. So, what it looks like, I think, from an inflationary standpoint, which is the number one problem for small businesses right now, is they are going to continue unless the Fed comes up with this, cutting interest rates, which is, the Wall Street's going to go crazy if they do that. But for a small business owner, it would be helpful, and maybe the optimism index would look a little better if that did happen. That's speculation. You don't know that that's going to happen. But otherwise, if it doesn't, we're looking probably at this inflationary period being higher and longer than people would like it to be. And I know we're tired of going to the grocery store or going out to eat and seeing what's going on out there. I mean, it's not too hard to figure out that, you push on that balloon, it's got to come out somewhere else. And for small business people, it's going to be in pricing. So that's kind of where we are.
Brad, what are you hearing? And we were just joking a few minutes ago about the service at fast food restaurants and all. What are you hearing from your business members who work in the restaurant side of things? Because I know there's a lot of them, and it's been a workforce challenge for a long time for them, hasn't it?
No, it absolutely has, John. I mean, there's no question, and I think you're getting a pretty good sneak peek at what's going on in the restaurant industry. Automation is going to be the watchword. I mean, the number of businesses that are investing right now in their own infrastructure, in other words, vehicles, the equipment, or improving their physical space, is down. But one area that they're improving is technology. And so, I don't think it's too far off that you're going to see no one back there cooking your burgers. It's going to be some kind of robotic thing that cooks your burgers, and you're going to be working with kiosks because, they're always on time. They don't take vacations. They don't ask for raises. And so, I think that's
Brad,
where we're going.
Brad, if I can interrupt there, let's not forget that it's not just about the human frailties of people that work in places. We all have those frailties. Government protection for employees has gone off the edge of the cliff over the past few decades, right?
Well,
I mean, the
that's true,
employment
too.
rules
Yeah.
and the taxes and the workers' comp and the unemployment, I mean, that will tank businesses. So, I mean, that plays into it, too.
As we say, Randy, it's sort of death by 1,000 cuts. It's all those things combined. We always get asked, well, what specific regulation is the worst? I said all of them. If you put them all in the basket, they'll sink a small business. And I think you're seeing in certain areas too. I got asked the other day, if we have a housing shortage, why don't we just build more houses? Well, that's a great idea. Now, where are you going to go find the home builders that have the skills that can build more houses? Because they're building the houses about as fast as they can with the labor force that they have. And if you're looking at home prices, there's another inflationary marker right there that's really caused some problems. So, I mean, the housing market is another part of the economy that we kind of look at and wonder, well, gosh, why is there no inventory out there? Why isn't there any houses to sell? Well, first of all, because the housing prices have gone through the roof, and second, we just don't have the folks out there that have the skills to build houses. And I think if you're going to have somebody build a house for you, you kind of want them to know what they're doing.
You would hope. Well, I think I'm going to maybe have to call into Gary Nolan on Friday because I saw something yesterday that really frosted my buns, and I can't really get over it. And it's in our congressional race. I saw a retweet, and they said, Bob Onder is the Freedom Caucus guy, and Kurt Schaefer's the Main Street guy. Like it was an insult. And I'm like, since when did being Main Street right? When I think of Main Street, I think of downtown, or a Chamber of Commerce Republican. I've seen that hurled as an insult. Since when did that become an insult?
We love Main Street at NFIB.
Right?
Those are our peeps.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a really dangerous
I don't know,
road.
Hannah. I don't know, Hannah. Why it was framed in that context, I have no idea. Because if I was running for office, I would want to be the Main Street person. I want to be the person that's on the side of small business people. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
So, final question for you, Brad, and we'll let you go because I know you have a cold, and we do appreciate you being with us. That is
I have a date with Mucinex this morning, Doc.
You personify the resilience and can-do spirit of small business. So, what do you think about the Supreme Court session just completed and some of the eliminating the Chevron deference and basically, taking away some of the power of that fourth branch of government that's grown so strong, the regulatory state, the administrative state? Good news for small business, huh?
Absolutely, yes. And like I said, that is the fourth branch of government, but we also call it the silent branch. But it's kind of a silent killer. I mean, the regulations and things that are out there that choke small business is unbelievable. I'll tell you the best example. We keep talking about childcare. Try to go out and look at the regulations that are involved in opening a childcare center.
Yep.
And you will know why people probably throw their hands up and say, there's no way I'm going to do all that stuff. I mean, that's just one example. But, yeah, I mean, you've got I don't know how many of us look at the federal regs that come out. I think is it daily? We've got the Missouri Register, and there's a federal register that comes out with regulations. There's companies that actually that have been set up to look at those and to report back to their clients on what exactly is in the federal regulations.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's no wonder that the biggest growth in the jobs report over the past few months and years has been government workers. I wonder why. They maybe need,
go figure.
Yeah, writers and enforcers. They're the judge, jury, and until recently the executioners on regulations. Hey, Brad, we hope you get better so you can be with us next time we talk next month. And,
we will do it.
Thanks for keeping.
Hopefully, I will feel better, and the economy will feel better. But
that'd be nice.
I'm thinking we're going to need to wait and see what happens until the elections are over.
All righty, I think you got that right, Brad.
The S&P up just slightly and NASDAQ up just a little bit more than that. And as we look to today, everything is just slightly in the green. So hopefully another good day in the markets. We've got yesterday, communication services and energy were down. Technology was driving the gainers. Now, John spent some time earlier talking about fast food. There's no hammers in this story, but I figure let's go from fast food to healthy food, one of Randy's favorite subjects. He and Hannah have been engaged in a debate this morning about the size of the cheese sticks. Yeah. This was what they were...
And that is not a euphemism.
There seems to be some shrinkflation in the cheese stick.
Randy is very disappointed this morning with his cheese stick.
And anyway. I'm just confused.
Yeah. All right. So there's another, and I've started to see this, and I've ordered it myself. It is fabulous. But apparently it's a TikTok trend, which I didn't really know. But apparently it's a new trend where young girls and others both are eating and ordering Caesar salad and French fries. Hannah, have you seen this?
Interesting.
I don't think I have.
And I thought this kind of falls into the category of like weird combos because you wouldn't normally see this. But they said, like a little bit of a healthy thing and then a little bit of a splurge that, young girls
it's a start.
Who were trying to kind of watch things. They also said with the price of like entrees that this is a way for younger folks to go out and eat and fill up on something and actually, it be a little bit more affordable. The article notes that sit-down restaurant prices jumped 3.5% in May, and of course they're way up from when Trump was the president. So I thought that was a really interesting food combo. Do you have a different order? I love that idea though.
That's a good idea.
I love French fries, but
See, I was devastated to learn as I became an adult because I've always loved Caesar salad. But
so good.
It's not really that
It's not
healthy.
super healthy. The dressing is not super healthy, but...
Wait a minute now. If it's made with real anchovies, that's good because those are full of omega-3s.
Well, the Morning Brew put out a poll and said, how much are you willing to pay for a salad? Most people said $10 to $15. Only 10%, 17% of people said they'd pay $25 or more for a Caesar salad.
Whoa.
Folks were asked, a Caesar salad is best served, and there are some interesting answers. Somebody said add buffalo sauce to a Caesar salad.
I've had that.
Oh, really? That sounds
delicious.
delicious.
The chicken, buffalo chicken. It's very interesting.
And they said avocado, add avocado too. They said chicken marinated in honey mustard. You were talking about honey mustard earlier. Grab some extra honey mustard from Chick-fil-A, marinate that chicken and put it on a salad. Someone said habanero, add that to your dressing in a blender. Other people said banana peppers, honeycomb. I like this idea, also in the not healthy category. Cut up tiny pieces of pizza and make them croutons.
Wow.
And add those to your salad. That sounds delicious.
The croutons and the cheese on a salad, no matter what it is that you're eating, what brand of salad, what type, that's what's the killer.
Don't ruin it for us.
Stick to the lettuce, the peppers, the nice cherry or other tomatoes, that's good. A little vinaigrette on a salad, it's a beautiful, healthy
Someone
thing.
said potato skins instead of croutons. I also like this idea.
I think you're defeating the purpose of the hybrid, healthy, non-healthy meal there.
Salad.
I like the cheese crisps that you get.
Those are good.
So I'll swap those for croutons.
Like the Parmesan cheese
I had never
crisps.
thought
so you
about
still
that.
get a crunch.
But you just get like straight cheese and not just like bread. I think this was Randy's entry in the survey to add nutritional yeast, which if you've never had
We read every one of them. I want to remind people that there's going to be a procession to accompany the body of Assistant Fire Chief Matt Tobin, who perished yesterday in that water rescue. And that will be taking off from the medical examiner's office down to his home in Union along Highway 70. And then, I guess, heading south on 47, which I think takes off from Warrenton, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't 47, I think, the highway or the state road out of Warrenton? At any rate, down there to Union. And that'll be happening later this morning in just an hour or two.
The tentative departure time from Columbia is 10:15 a.m. And we are going to learn more about the route here in Columbia, and I know Brian's going to get that posted to our website. And the Boone County Fire Protection District's Facebook page will have more news on that. In case you missed it, we had a very compelling and frankly, I think everyone's eyes were filling up with tears, and we were all bloodshot after that when Gale Blomenkamp was in earlier. If you missed that, you can catch it later on the podcast or the archive of the Facebook rendition of the show. Okay, to lighten it up a little bit, because, the tragedy just overwhelms everyone, but we have to lighten it up and go on and move on, and I just got the biggest kick when I saw in yesterday's Wall Street Journal this dispute over socks. Now, where have you been? Haven't we already answered that? Anyone who listens to this program, I'm not culturally always in the tune. It seems like about the time that I adopt,
not always,
as I adopt the latest style, it's gone.
It's like not the
5
latest
years earlier.
style.
Okay.
There's been a lot said about candidates committing fashion crimes, especially this cycle. And the 4th of July.
Really?
I cannot believe how much money these candidates are paying their consultants, and no one is saying anything about their outfits because.
Tell me more.
I'm going to put out a lookbook after, and I'm going to chop people's heads off, but people are going to know.
Are you going to name names?
I'll probably chop your head off, but it will be. Yeah, no, I will, and I will offer fashion consulting services for a fee.
Well, this story, so maybe this relates to the story.
It was bad. It was from socks to shoes to pants to ill-fitting. Ugh.
Okay, well, this story, now, see, John, I don't know about you, but when the kids were in the home before they left the nest, and this was between 5 and 15 years ago, well, maybe 7 and 15 years ago, I remember getting chastised when I would wear my white socks with my sneakers, up to the ankle, the regular old crew socks, right?
Crew or tube
socks.
Yeah.
And Dad, come on! And then I started looking around. I noticed people you couldn't see their socks, but they had socks on because they were the no-show. And I thought, I'm going to be cool. So I bought a whole bunch of them, or the ones that just stick up a little bit, like quarter socks. I thought, man, that's cool. Now, apparently, Gen Zers are saying you are not cool unless you're wearing them up to the ankle again. What's going on, Hannah?
Go. In black with your white sneakers.
I was going to say, I don't own a single pair of white socks. I think my husband has one or two white tube socks that he only wears with cowboy boots just because they're tall and so they don't rub on his leg.
Okay.
But other than that, we are a black and gray sock family.
That is bizarre. I have so many pairs of white tennis shoes, so I have tons of white socks, but I'm still I'm team no-show because I feel like my husband's always made fun. I have cankles, and you can't.
You don't have cankles?
Yes, I do. And if you wear a tube sock over a cankle, I just look like a tree trunk. So I've tried. I've put it on Facebook before. I'm I just can't get behind. And I'm short, so I feel like the proportions are off. Now, Hannah has sent me pictures from her youth, and I never went through the tube sock phase. Even when I was younger, we still did shorter socks. Hannah has these cute, what were they called when she was young? Her and her sports teams all wore these cute colored Nike socks.
Yeah, so anyone who's listening who either had kids during this time, it would have been 2012 to 15 maybe. The Nike Elite brand, they had everything from socks to clothes to basketballs to backpacks. That was the popular it girl thing. And I believe the socks that we would wear were technically basketball socks.
Yeah.
And that's how we conned our parents into buying them for us. They were probably $12 or $15 for one single pair of these socks. They were a little cushioned, but they would come in all these god-awful colors, and we loved them. But they
Randy,
were
should
real
we tell
tall.
on ourselves? Ours were Ours in the sports era were the calf-high athletic socks with the multicolored stripes.
They had
at
the stripes
top.
around them. Yeah,
Which I find
when
to be
you're
really
playing
cute.
softball or baseball.
Yeah.
And you had like the 3-inch inseam shorts too. Like, I mean, my husband played rugby, so similar, like the tall socks with the short.
Yeah, you have to try those shorts when you're the catcher sometimes.
What you catching?
But I mean, that's all my kids wear. They wear, and usually they're black. But they're like, for boys, they're black. And then but then also what you didn't do when you were my age was you didn't wear socks with sandals. Last night at the softball game, by the way, for all the parents out there,
That's just not right.
I had to stop at a sporting goods store in Columbia on my way to Harrisburg because we left our cleats in Ashland. I know y'all have been there before, and it was it's just easier to get another pair. But no, all the kids there, they had those like Nike Under Armour slides, or they have Crocs on, and then the tall socks, which was like a super no-no, or Birkenstocks, Hannah.
Yeah, the slides were became popular when I was growing up, and so slides and socks, that was the thing. See, I like it to at least look like I'm wearing socks. Like, I don't like the no-shows.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people question if you're wearing socks, and that's weird to me. So I like a good ankle sock, so you can just barely see the top of it poking out of my shoe.
And me too. And here, you're really old when the thing that matters the most for me with socks is compression. And I have these socks that change your lives. There's stores in mid-Missouri that sell them. They're called Features, but they have a certain level of compression.
Not sponsored.
In them. Yeah. If you want to do a deal, Features, give me a call. But I can't get, they're horribly expensive. I bought them as gifts for people in my life because they will change your life.
I will not spend money. No, socks get lost too easy. They get mispaired.
I guard
You can't
these
find
socks
the pair.
with my life.
Yeah.
I relate to Stephanie's cankle fear. I would wear taller socks, but yeah, I just feel like my legs look like tree trunks when I do.
Wear high heels.
Do it.
When you wear high heels, cankles go away.
With leggings and athletic socks, Hannah. High heels.
Do
High
I
heels.
look like I've ever owned a pair of high heels in my life, Randall?
High heels with knee highs sounds like a different type of programming, Randy.
Yeah.
You just talked about cankles. I wasn't talking about all the accessories. I mean, it activates when you wear the high heels, it activates your gastrocnemius and it's a wonderfully defined lower leg. It's a beautiful
and I'll
thing.
just be 6'4".
Come on, guys. Weigh in on this. I need some help here.
The biggest heel I'll wear is a cowboy boot, okay?
I'm thankful that these trends kind of go in cycles.
Yeah.
And so although this weird calf sock thing, and I'm going to be out of trend for the next couple of years because I'm sticking with my low socks, we'll be back to low socks here shortly.
I have taken as a badge of honor being proud of the fact that, an old guy thing is to just wear dark socks when you're working out in the yard, and
I've seen that.
Yeah. I mean, it's really an old grandpa thing, but, it's okay.
And they're comfortable.
Yeah, John. Well, and you don't have to change from the day. I just take off the jeans and put on my shoes and cargo shorts, and I'm working. Yesterday, I was pulling weeds till 8 o'clock at
You'd
night.
make a great candidate, Randy.
It was great.
The only thing about dark colored socks, this is so gross.
Ooh.
That kind of stinks. Is you get black fuzzies in your toenails. You gotta watch out for those.
And I do remember a time, Randy mentions working in the yard, but there was actually a time where Kmart, and I'm old enough, and you're old enough to remember.
It was the Big K rebranded when I was...
Exactly. It was a big deal, and they had a big one in Poplar Bluff. Goodness, that was probably one of the big... I mean, Kmart had a huge store.
Yeah.
Chris Bell worked at the Big K on Missouri Boulevard.
Missouri Boulevard, yeah.
Jefferson
It was a big
City.
deal. But a huge store. They had a big shoe department down the one on Missouri Boulevard, and it was common in the 1970s and 80s in Jefferson City for men to they would wear a dress shirt and a tie, shorts, and black socks.
Yes, it's a big deal.
It was
on the croquet court.
On the croquet, you'd see it at church.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I remember some of our sellers wearing that very attire, suit and tie and Bermudas.
Yes.
It's coming back. I have a blazer and like shorty shorts, and it's cute for women, I think, right now, and it's making a comeback.
That's awesome.
Man, I don't know. Guys with a tie and shorts, it's like kilts. I don't know if I could. All right. Well, the Irish guys out there, the Scottish guys. What are you talking about? Okay.
No, my era, the gaudy Nike Elite basketball socks.
Yeah.
With our slides.
Those are good.
And then the twisted or braided, like Under Armour headbands that were really skinny.
Oh, yep.
That was also my jam growing up.
Hey, I'm going back to some ties that I had from the old days, the narrow ties. You notice RFK wears real narrow ties?
He does.
I told my wife, that's a good look. I like it.
I would not be taking fashion advice from
I wore a
RFK.
little narrower one today. A little narrower one today.
And there was a time in as late as the 1966 All-Star game, and certainly before that in St. Louis, where seriously, you went to a Cardinal baseball game, the men suit and tie, all of them. I don't care if it's 100-degree heat. You wore a suit and tie, and the women all wore dresses.
That's like flying. Remember when commercial airlines in the 50s and 60s got started? I mean, it was a big dress-up experience.
Oh, my gosh. Inflation. I just looked up Nike Elite basketball socks. They're almost $27 a pair.
A pair?
A pair.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to Temu for that. All right, when we come back.
Randy, I just want to point out as well, the procession for Mr. Tobin is going to start tentatively, and we're waiting to hear the final detail from Gale Blomenkamp. 10:15. It's going to go
family and friends of Matt Tobin, who died in the
Yes,
line of
indeed.
duty yesterday. I also want to offer condolences to former Representative Chuck Basie. His dad, who was 97, passed away yesterday. His Chuck Basie's posted his dad's obituary. He was a World War II veteran and retired from the Navy on his 60th birthday in 1987 at the rank of captain. So condolences to Chuck. Sounds like
And
your
the
dad lived
Facebook-
a long life of public service.
Chuck's
and-
Facebook post shows a picture of his dad standing in front of some a big deer camp, day with a bunch of antlered deer there and nice bucks and some of his buddies, and just really great to see. So our condolences and prayers are with the Basie family, indeed. John, what you got going on?
Well, it's not only Task Force 1 who's on the scene doing tropical storm barrel duty. I think we've got almost 50 personnel who shipped out for Texas. But now we're hearing from the Red Cross locally that 16 disaster responders from their Missouri and Arkansas region are deployed everywhere from Florida to Iowa, New Mexico, and now they've got them going down to Texas as well. So
yeah.
The volunteers are hard at it.
They are, and it's going to be a lot of rebuilding going around in those parts. They just continue to get slammed year after year, and that's just the nature of living on the coast. But I'm glad there are helpers from all over the country that come out, including our area as well. Hannah, for those who are of the Republican persuasion, or just want to get out and notice and see that MAGA kind of people aren't evil, knuckle-dragging Neanderthal people, there's an opportunity to get together and socialize.
Yeah, every year they do the Ronald Reagan Ice Cream Social. I believe this year is the first year they're also doing the pulled pork cook-off at this
pork ice
event.
cream.
And this is the Boone County GOP.
Yes, Boone County GOP. It's Tuesday, July 23rd. Doors open at 5:30 at the American Legion Hall in Columbia. It's on Legion Lane. That's easy to remember in Columbia. I think some of us are going to be there.
I'll be there.
Planning on it.
Yeah. So I don't believe we'll have a pulled pork entry, but we will be there to sample. That's for sure.
I'm there for the ice cream. Also, we are 28 days out from the primary. Hopefully you are already thinking about it. If you have an excuse, you can already vote at your clerk's office absentee in that election. No excuse absentee voting's coming up, but tomorrow is your last day to register to vote, whether you live in Boone County or Cole County,
or Montauk County,
or wherever you live. But Hannah Anyway, Hannah needs to get her name successfully changed on her registration. But folks who have moved, for example, you just want to make sure that you are registered. I believe you can get online on the secretary's page and on your clerk's page to confirm your registration. But make sure if you're unsure or you don't know or you haven't registered, maybe you just became of age, make sure you get registered because if you're not registered, you can't just show up on the day and vote. But we want everyone who can legally vote to vote. And that's really important. And then also, I think we're going to be doing some good work here about putting out some information maybe on our Facebook page about other opportunities to vote. I know Brianna Lennon every year moves the voting around, early voting, and she ends up at the Southern Boone Library. I know she's got some dates or a date to be at the Centralia Library. And man, I have done that voting. It's on a Saturday. You can run over to the library. It takes me 5 minutes. There's no line. And so we're going to be making sure you have that info as well, because I think for a lot of folks, I think if you can vote early, you should vote early. And that way you're not standing in line or something doesn't come up on election day. So we're going to be making sure that you know about those opportunities.
The mishaps at the polls in Arizona, the weather in Nevada
probably
made a big difference last election cycle.
The bridge traffic?
The bridge traffic, yeah. Oh, think about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the rules we're playing by. I think we'd all like to have one day, no mail-in, voter only. In fact, Elon Musk talked about that in a post the other day. He says, look, if we had cameras at the polling places, if it's one day, same day voting, election day voting only, we'd know how many people were there, how many votes were cast. It would be pretty easy to match. And a little shout out to our friend Cindy O'Loughlin. She posted on her, this was on July 5th, she has a T-shirt that says, I'm getting every one of these for Christmas. if at first you don't succeed, try doing what Cindy told you to do the first time.
I love her.
Some words of wisdom.
All
righty. Hey,